Welcome to BBC London. I'm Assad Ahmed. On the programme tonight, Reform wins seats, Conservatives lose them, and in Hertfordshire there's a change like we haven't seen for decades.
We've had this national protest which is rolled across Hertfordshire. This has been a referendum of a national message coming from Reform, which has washed over our county.
We've been keeping across the changes. Also this evening, the bin collectors fighting more fires in London caused by wrongly discarded vapes. Plus, doctors in London deliver a new form of breast reconstruction for a cancer patient. And taking the biscuit, why an artist is turning these broken digestives into portraits. Good evening. Last night will have seemed like a dream for Reform Party leader Nigel Farage. It started well, with his party winning council seats across the country as well as getting an MP. And it continued into today, with more councils going Reform's way, while the Conservatives, well, they lost control of Hertfordshire this afternoon. And that's for the first time in decades. Our political editor, Carl Mercer, has been following the change in the political landscape.
In Hemel Hempstead, they're trying to get things back to normal, for the sports hall at least, because politics in these parts just changed for the first time in a generation. Until yesterday, this man was the Conservative council leader. They've been in charge here since 1999. Not anymore.
We've had this national protest which is rolled across Hertfordshire. This has been a referendum of a national message coming from Reform, which has washed over our county. Let's just remember that we are one of the highest, independently verified as one of the best performing county councils in the country.
That responsibility will now fall mainly on the county's Lib Dems. They picked up 31 seats, short of a majority, but enough to make them the largest group here.
We've run a really positive campaign. We've campaigned hard. All our candidates have been out knocking on doors, talking to residents. You know, we feel we've delivered a fantastic result. In Decorum, we've won 4 seats. We're the largest party of all the political parties in Decorum. I don't have the result across Hertfordshire, but I know that we've done well. We have over 30 seats, and we are the largest party.
The question now for them, will they go into talks with other parties to run Hertfordshire?
We'll start those discussions with other parties. You know, we need to work out what's best for the residents and how we deliver that.
Like elsewhere in the country, it was Reform that made the biggest gains here, winning 14 seats. They'd never won any before. I'm
Christopher Wright. I'm standing for Reform, and I've just been delighted to say that I've been elected.
Were you expecting to be?
Probably not. I was ambitious because I worked hard.
He said voters had a clear message on the doorstep.
Just simply, we want to change. We're fed up with the old lies, fed up with the same, story after story. We promised to do this and then never failing to do so. And so I intend to do that.
The Green leader here, Ben Crystal, was on his own before today. It appears his poster making, though, wasn't in vain. They've now got 5 seats. That's the same as Labour, who lost one of theirs to Reform. So while the clear-up here continues, it'll be voters in London who are up next. All the capital's boroughs go to the polls next year. Carl Mercer, BBC London.
And just so you know, you can see who won the local election in areas where seats were up for grabs, obviously out of London. Go to the BBC News website or BBC News app, put in a postcode or just the name of the area, and you'll get the results. Well, there have been more fires caused by vapes and e-cigarettes in London than in any other part of the country. Vapes shouldn't be disposed of like normal household waste. Instead, that small lithium battery inside should be removed and recycled separately. If not, well then there's the risk of fire. Here's Bryony Williams.
This dramatic footage shows what could happen when an e-cigarette or vape is not disposed of in the right way and chucked into normal bins. And for those on the front line collecting waste, it's a day-to-day concern.
I've personally experienced 2 fires. In about 6 months. We were just going about our job, and the back of the lorry set ablaze, and it's scary, and it is something that we would much prefer not to be thinking about or even experience.
Research from the e-cigarette retailer Electric Tobacconist has found London ranks among the worst areas for vape fires. London Fire and Rescue Service responded to just 3 vape-related fires in 2020. That figure jumped to 14 in 2024. The London Fire Brigade believe that these figures could be a lot higher. They suspect that discarded vapes could be the cause of a lot of waste fires, but because they're harder to investigate and to determine a cause, they're not necessarily recorded as discarded vape-related fires.
Definite massive rise in the last year with fires we suspect relating to lithium-ion batteries. Batteries have come a long way from alkaline batteries. Lithium-ion batteries are made to last longer and produce more power. And a byproduct of that will be, if they do fail, there'll be a more ferocious reaction rather than a normal battery.
It's estimated 11% of UK adults vape. That's around 5.6 million people. And 8.2 million single-use e-cigarettes or vapes are thrown away or incorrectly recycled each week. But the issue with fires may not be resolved when single-use vapes are banned in June.
So whilst the single-use vapes themselves, the classic old ones, are being banned from the 1st of June, there's many models that are very similar in look and feel. It's also got a battery inside of it, which if it goes into the wrong place can start fires. So basically they should take them back to the shop that they bought them from, because they're legally obligated to offer take-back and recycling.
Consumers are being urged to take their vapes to recycling sites to stop the rise in fires.
At Veolia, we're experiencing 1 preventable fire per day across our facilities. In the London region, that's 1 every 3 days.
And it could be one small lithium battery that has huge, devastating consequences. Bryony Williams, BBC London.
Well, now a moment to take a look at some other local stories in the headlines today. An inquest has opened into the death of Kalia Koa, the 11-year-old girl who died after slipping into the River Thames in East London in March. The coroner said it's likely Kalia died from the effect of cold water. The girl's family said her death had broken their hearts. A man has pleaded not guilty to murdering 14-year-old Daniel Anjorin, who was attacked with a sword in Hainault last year. Marcus Monzo is accused of running up behind Daniel, slashing him in the chest and neck. Monzo will stand trial next month. Rail passengers face disruption to services from Euston over some of the bank holiday weekend due to planned engineering work. Euston will be closed on Sunday and Monday to replace drainage and parts of the track. Replacement buses will also be in place. A woman from South Ruislip who was diagnosed with cancer has become the first person in the country to have a new form of breast reconstruction surgery. Tanya Tanner says she now feels whole again. A team of London surgeons developed the procedure, which involves a smaller than usual internal incision for part of the operation. Lakshmi Gopal has this report.
Hello! Oh my God, hi!
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
The first patient of a new surgery reuniting with the surgeons who pioneered and performed it.
You promised me you will make me whole again, and that's exactly what I feel. I feel like I'm whole again.
After a cancer diagnosis and mastectomy, Tanya was offered a form of breast reconstruction surgery that uses a less invasive method.
So when I first heard this news that I will be the first patient with this procedure, I felt a bit nervous, a bit anxious, but so excited.
The recovery is quicker and less painful than with the usual procedure.
After this such a complex surgery, 8 hours, quite a lot of amount of pain. But when I woke up after in intensive care, I didn't feel anything. And then second day I was like, okay, this now is coming. There was no pain.
The breast reconstruction procedure, known as Dieppe flap surgery, involves taking a blood vessel and tissue from the patient's abdomen, which is then used to help build a new breast. Surgeons from the Royal Free Hospital and Hillingdon Hospital developed a new approach to removing that blood vessel, modifying a technique being used in only a few places around the world.
In the traditional Dieppe tissue transplant, we usually make a large incision in the stomach, in the abdominal wall. So we make big incisions, 10 to 12 centimeters. With this kind of minimal access keyhole approach, we can make a 2 to 3 centimeter incision, and that means less chance of getting hernias, less pain for the patient. So it means the patient can be up and walking on day one.
The team says it's a big change from the 4 to 7 days usually needed for recovery.
This is a massive breakthrough. This is really innovative because we're using a purely keyhole technique, which means that when they wake up, they will feel a lot better. They'll have a better overall experience, and that is key with cancer surgery.
They plan to refine the procedure and develop robotic surgery for it, where surgeons handle their instruments using a console and robotic arms, allowing greater control and magnification.
I'm feeling great.
The icing on the cake for Tanya is that she has just been told she's now cancer-free. She hopes other women going through what she has will soon be able to benefit the same way too. Lakshmi Gopal, BBC London.
Yeah, and Tanya, we wish you all the very best. Now, next week will be the 80th anniversary of VE Day, when the Second World War in Europe came to an end. Across London, on that day in 1945, people poured onto the streets to celebrate the defeat of Nazi Germany. Well, this bank holiday weekend, there are events you can join to mark the historic anniversary, and Alison Earle has the details for us. She's on the Mall for us tonight. Over to you, Alison.
Well, Assad, as you can see, the Union Jacks are out in force, not just here, but you may have spotted them in lots of parts of London. And you might also be able to make out lots of barriers here. Well, it's all in preparation for the crowds they're expecting here over the coming days to mark, as you say, this historic day of peace when World War II ended in Europe 80 years ago. Well, extra effort is being put into this anniversary as it's thought it might be one of the last to include living veterans, and some of them will be featuring in events, and they've been preparing for them just outside London at an army training centre in Surrey, and Joe Campbell has spent the day with them.
Well, this has been an intense day of rehearsal here at Pirbright with the more than 1,000 people who are taking part in Monday's parade. As you can see just over here, the naval contingent from Portsmouth, the Army, and right down there at the far end, the RAF. But it's not just the military. We've also got people here from the police, the ambulance and the fire service, those who saw action on the home front. And if you look just beyond us here, well, these are the flags representing all the nations who served as part of the Allied alliance to defeat the Axis 80 years ago this coming week.
Get yourselves in open order. Let's go through all of those words of commands together now.
The team here at Pirbright have run every big military parade there is, from coronations to funerals. As the musicians of the senior service, the Royal Marines Band from HMS Collingwood, are old hands, but this is still a bit different.
This sort of thing is on a much larger scale than our usual day-to-day. So getting involved, being a part of a much bigger picture, it's really exciting, really enjoyable.
With the temperature soaring, this was tough going. Getting this many people together isn't easy either.
With the carrier strike group just departing, most of the personnel have come from our training establishments that are either in between courses or about to return to sea to perform other duties.
A grass field doubled for Parliament Square. People's thoughts were elsewhere already.
My dad served in the 7th Battalion of the Hampshire Regiment from Normandy D+6 right to the end of the war. My uncle, who was a parachutist, he was one of those that crossed over the Rhine on Operation Varsity. He won a military medal for that.
From Hampshire, Wiltshire, Oxfordshire and Berkshire, representatives of those who served on the home front in a campaign that touched everyone.
They didn't escape unharmed, and thinking right across the south, you know, the proximity of Portsmouth and Southampton, depending which route bombers took, there was always a risk for those areas as well.
Watching over it all and taking notes, the training team. And yes, there would be questions for some later.
Make sure it all goes smoothly and pick any points up that we've got, any small points, so we can rectify them for our next rehearsal.
And after today, well, next time it's London for a final rehearsal in the early hours of Saturday morning.
Well, the anniversary itself isn't until Thursday, but there are lots of things happening before then, some of them happening where you live. I'm sure there are lots of street parties going on all across London and beyond, but lots of the official events here in central London are being organised by the Imperial War Museum. And earlier on, I was there to find out more about what we can expect.
On our sites on Monday on HMS Belfast, for the first time ever, we're holding a late event. Fortunately, that's now sold out, but it's a way of kick-starting the street parties, which we know will be happening across the country for this week of VE Day 80. And then on Monday here in Imperial War Museum London, we've got a choir performing numbers from 3 till 3:30, and we've got family activities happening at the museum as well. So you can pop in at any point during the day from 10 till 4. For this anniversary, we're extraordinarily fortunate to have living witnesses with us, and we need to make the most of that. And so 80 years on, we're at this really important hinge point in history.
Well, just a flavour there of what's going on, but that's not the only place that's going to be marking this very momentous occasion. Let me take you through some of the other things happening. So starting on Bank Holiday Monday, there will be a military procession going through Whitehall all the way to Buckingham Palace behind me, and that will feature more than 1,000 members of the armed forces and also veterans. And there will also be a fly-past as part of that from the Red Arrows. On Tuesday, attention will turn to the Tower of London, where there will be a sea of ceramic red poppies. Now, these poppies were featured back in 2014 there, and they're going to be part of a very special and moving installation. And jumping to Thursday, that's the official anniversary. There will be a service of Thanksgiving happening at Westminster Abbey, attended by members of the royal family. And the highlight will be a concert at Horse Guards Parade later on that day. And there will be special coverage of some of the key moments all throughout this week. And you can see that all across the BBC and also on iPlayer.
Alison, thanks very much for that. Lots to enjoy.
This weekend, almost everywhere you look in London, there's something to play for. AFC Wimbledon travel to Grimsby, knowing at least a draw will secure them a playoff place. There's been no shortage of goals to celebrate for the Dons this season, and a return to League One is now a possibility.
Still be there fighting final game with our destiny as far as getting into the playoffs in our own hands. I think they've got to take every credit for that, because it's not been easy, but here we are, and it's a great position to be in.
You took over the summer after Wimbledon had come down. What would it mean to you to be the man to lead them back up to the highest level this incarnation of Wimbledon's ever played at?
It'd mean everything to me, you know, the faith that's been shown in me. It's been a long, long road to get here and to be in this position. The football club hasn't been here for quite a while now, so, you know, it's a privilege to be in this position. I just want to, you know, help finish the job.
In League One, Wycombe have already booked a playoff spot, as have Charlton, who are looking to end the season on a high with a win at home to Burton.
Hopefully a great atmosphere, a nice day out. We want to finish the season strong. It's not a case of, you know, it's just as what it is. Come Saturday, we want to go there and go into the playoffs in a really good place.
Leyton Orient's campaign will always be remembered for Jamie Donnelly's FA Cup wonder strike against Man City. A win at Huddersfield should be enough for them to take the final League One playoff place ahead of Reading. In with a chance of promotion to the Premier League, Millwall are one of 5 clubs vying for 2 playoff spots. If they can win away to already promoted Burnley, then one could be theirs. The Women's Championship has gone to the final day. If Bromley-based London City Lionesses get at least a draw at Birmingham, they'll be promoted to the Women's Super League for the very first time. Lose, and it will be Birmingham who take the sole promotion place.
It's a lot of excitement. It's these games you want to play, you know, when it feels like a final, you know. I mean, I played a lot of big games, but this one is among them. I mean, it's a very exciting end of the season.
After a marathon season, it all comes down to this. Chris Slegg, BBC London.
Now, 10-year-old Tony Hudgell, who had both his legs amputated after being abused by his birth parents, has been fitted with new prosthetics in London, which should allow him to walk without crutches. Tony, who lives in Kent with his adopted family, hopes his new legs will allow him to play football. Here's Simon Jones.
Putting his best new feet forward, Tony Hudgell gets to try out his prosthetic legs for the first time. Right. After a year in a wheelchair, following surgery to make this all possible.
He's so strong and so positive and so resilient. He's on fire at the moment. He's just so excited. But, you know, this will make such a difference to him because with having had the surgery, it means it will give him the chance now to be able to walk without the crutches in the long term.
Tony was abused by his birth parents. His injury is so severe he had to have both legs amputated. But his charitable work led to him becoming the youngest ever recipient of a New Year honour. Last year, he underwent a 5-hour operation to have what was a permanently dislocated hip repaired. After the surgery, he had to wear a frame that needed constant painful adjustments.
It's metal. And every morning, evening, before I go to bed, we do tightening.
How's it feel, Tony? Good.
In March, his recovery had progressed so well that he was ready to be measured up for his new prosthetics.
Exciting.
Why?
Because I'm allowed to have shoes.
On Sunday, he'll walk out onto the pitch at Chelsea as their mascot with a design of his choosing.
Oh, cool. Union Jack.
We'll be immensely proud of him. You know, he loves his football. That's his dream.
And Tony's next goal is not just to play football, but to win a cup too.
Yeah, and best of luck to him. Simon Jones reporting. Well, now to some faces you may recognise. These are works of art made using not paint or pen, but digestive biscuits. Yes, I did say digestive biscuits. The artist from West London who's behind them was asked to do it for McVitie's 100-year celebration. Nisha Patel went to meet Ed Chapman as this goes on display in central London.
Art good enough to eat. Mosaic artist Ed Chapman was commissioned by McVitie's to turn digestives into A-list icons, all to mark 100 years of their chocolate digestives, which are made here in London.
I was both nervous at the prospect of never having used biscuits, but because it's sort of what I do or have done previously, I was intrigued. So I, even before I'd accepted the commission, I went out and bought some biscuits and laid them out and found this could actually probably work. The missing piece.
It took 180 hours and thousands of biscuits to make 3 A1 portraits of broadcaster Sir Trevor MacDonald, musician David Bowie and actor Dame Judi Dench.
There's different tones of biscuit shades there, so you can get the different grades of any portrait that you're doing. And then I would use a knife like this to slice. As soon as like breaking a tile, it would break very, very neatly directly along the line. And where needed, I would use a pair of scissors. I would fix the biscuits with a flexible adhesive. I found my way with them, like you do, I suppose, with anything. And were to make any more, I would know to keep them really cold as possible, keeping them in the fridge overnight, only getting the ones I needed at that moment, even though it wasn't the warm weather that we have at the moment.
McVitie's first rolled out its famous chocolate digestives in 1925. A century on, they're celebrating with a touring pop-up gallery featuring Ed's biscuit mosaics.
My favourite was the Dame Judi Dench, which was the last one of the 3 I made, by which time I'd seen that the other 2 had come out quite nicely, and therefore her portrait was actually technically more intricate, more detailed. but I knew what was possible with the biscuits. I'd learned how to use them.
A century of biscuits, a handful of celebrities, and one artist, showing that sometimes the best way to honour history is one crumb at a time. Nisha Patel, BBC London.
OK, let's get the weather forecast now from Chris. And another warm day today, Chris.
Indeed, it has been, Assad. Yeah, we've had lots of sunshine, sunny skies like these. However, just recently we've started to see some cloud develop towards the southeast of England. See how that cloud's just working northwards? That is actually the sea breeze front, and it's quite rare for these to create thunderstorms, but that's exactly what's happened over the last couple of hours. A storm that developed here has worked across Surrey and is threatening the south of Greater London as well. The computers don't know a whole lot about that, but nevertheless there are going to be some big downpours for the next couple of hours before those storms fade away later in the night. We'll be left with some slightly fresher air getting in, so a more comfortable night's sleep with temperatures down to 12 degrees by the end of the night. Now tomorrow, I think there will be a lot of dry weather with spells of sunshine coming and going, but it will feel fresher than we've been used to. 22 degrees Celsius, still feeling quite pleasant, I think, in the best of the day's sunshine. Then through Sunday and holiday Monday, we get this cooler air coming down from the north around this area of high pressure. And so for a time, temperatures will be dropping a little bit below average. Now, weather-wise, on Sunday, there will be a few showers across eastern areas. They won't be too heavy. The west, it's more likely to stay dry with spells of sunshine. The northeasterly wind is going to make it feel a little bit cooler, and temperatures are going to be significantly lower. Highs of about 14 degrees Celsius in the centre of town. As the winds start to turn more to a northeasterly direction for Monday, there's a greater risk of some of those showers affecting eastern and central areas of the Greater London area, and again feeling quite cool in the breeze. After that, well, high pressure is going to be dominating and building back in, and so we should see temperatures generally pick up into next week, back above average towards the end of the week and back into the 20s for next weekend. That's how the weather's looking. Assad.
Thanks very much, Chris. It changes in time for the bank holiday weekend. Well, that's it. Alison and I will have our late news tonight on BBC One at 10:30. On behalf of the BBC London early evening news team, we'll wish you a good weekend and, of course, a very good bank holiday weekend as well. Bye-bye.